Hello and welcome to the Fall In Podcast. I'm your host, Big Al, and boy, do we have a special show for you here today. We got Alex Witt from the Battle Bars. We got John Timar from Grapple Science, and these guys are going to be coming in. We'll be having ourselves a great little conversation. Also got the Fall In Director of Operations, Clint Underwood. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring these guys in. Hey, how's it going, gentlemen?
What's up, guys? Thanks, Al.
It's going great. Thanks, Al.
What's up,
All right.
What's going on, Alex?
I tell you what. So, Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, man, and tell us a little bit about the Battle Bars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everyone on the call here is a veteran, and that's kind of like the focal point and the foundation of why we're here and why our businesses exist. So, myself, I had experience overseas having terrible tasting products and snacks. And, it was like MRE and Cliff Bar competition. And then I get out of the military and start in the civilian world, entrepreneurial life. And you start to realize that, everything is disgusting. Every protein bar is absolutely disgusting. It's loaded with crap and fake sugars. And then you start to realize that, wow, like these companies that are terrible, these disgusting protein bars are so bad. Yet they're selling for $600 million, $1 billion, $3 billion. And then Cliff Bar sold for $3 billion. I was like, that's it. I got to do something about this. I mean, there's got to be something else out there. So we hired a private chef, and I'll fast forward it before we get too deep. But hired a private chef and set up a product and wanted to make something like a Rice Krispie treat, but with great macros and no fake sugars. We don't want to lie to the public and try to get people to eat a little bit better and have my kids snack better. And now we're in about 5,500 stores and growing. Every vitamin shop in the country, every UFC gym, Lifetime Fitness, HEB in Texas, all throughout, and expanding. So now it's just a matter of playing the cash exchange game in the right amount of time.
Wow, that sounds exciting. Can't wait to hear more about that as well once we get into the discussion part. So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Grapple Science and how you guys kind of came to be where you're at today?
Absolutely, Al. So I'm John Timar. I'm with Grapple Science. I'm one of the founders. I spent my formative years outside the military just teaching Alex Wood everything he knows. So, all that shine that he was putting out there, I'm just stealing right in for my own success story.
That's why I was so bad early on, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I know. It just took so much time and effort. I had to coddle you and carry you in my wings. My shoulders are hurting.
Appreciate
just like
that.
some of my classmates through buds. But yeah, I'm an entrepreneur as well. I was the CEO of an energy drink company called Kill Cliff all the way up until about a year ago. And I stepped off and started my own brand. And just inspired by guys like Alex, actually, all kidding aside from earlier. But when I came into the Kill Cliff brand, I was there to turn it around and save it, right? They had its problems and it needed help. It needed a new shot of adrenaline. And I came in and provided what it needed, and we did great. But it was never my brand. I didn't start it, but being a SEAL, I was very close to it, right? I felt as part of the DNA. It's like our heritage. But Grapple Science is something near and dear to my heart. I've been in jiu-jitsu for 17, 18 years, training with some of the best competitors in the world. And I'm at this point in my life where I want to do this for another 20 years. My body's breaking down on me. And I looked out into the market and there just wasn't anybody speaking to this community. And the community is growing rapidly. It's growing. It's bigger now by some measurements than CrossFit in the US, but there's no strength, conditioning, nutrition, training, education, products that are supporting this marketplace. So I saw an opportunity and selfishly wanted to create a brand where I create products that I wanted to be better at what I do. And that's the story. So we started and came out the gates back in December, and it's going gangbusters. We're having a time of our life, and it's really aligned with our interests in our community and our worldview. So it's a lot of fun.
That sounds exciting, man. So, all right. So moving on, Clint. Clint is the Director of Operations for Fall In. So, Clint, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and all the exciting things that are going on over at Fall In?
Oh, man, where do I start? I'll pivot off what these two gentlemen said. We're kind of in a similar situation where personally, Fall In which I'll tip my hat to Al, right? He is one of the original visionaries behind the platform. Probably goes back 11 years, bringing this to fruition, which we launched recently only months ago. And so it's a really exciting time for Fallen in general. I was brought on board to do some ops stuff. But like Alex, there are a lot of like-minded people out there that are unhappy with social media in the way that we build communities on social media. We build communities and networks. We find values and then start to voice our rights to put our opinions out there and dissent with each other. And then we find ourselves a lot of times deleted or censored and not able to communicate with the public the way we want to. And that's just not satisfactory, right? And then a lot of other social media, well, all the other social media platforms out there really have a tendency to mine data and sell that data to any interested party, whether it be they have malicious intent or just frankly an intent to market that data. We want to get away from that and really protect the veteran, first responder, police, and patriotic American community and their values, where they have a free place to go and interact, find good services and products, which brings me in the room with these gentlemen to try to make these veteran entrepreneurs, men of character and quality products available to a community of people who can support them, and vice versa. But then I'll pivot on what John said also. There's a real gap there. There's nobody out there doing what we are. There's nobody out there who's not going to market on their social media platform. There's not going to be someone out there that gives you freedom to establish your network and communicate your product, services, or frankly, friendships, tribe, and values the way you want and need to see them in America. And that's what we're trying to do. So, we're welcoming guys like these guys in to come in and spread the word about what they're doing and what we're doing, just to surround ourselves with greatness, frankly, and the American spirit. But thanks for that, Adam.
The one thing that we all have in common, though, with this, guys, is the entrepreneurship. So I think that's there's another gangbuster in there too. I think you guys are all MMA guys as well, and so you take all of this and you kind of put it together, and it does really equal the perfect plan. So with that, Alex, when did you actually start to feel? I mean, you said yourself that it was just nothing out there, that everything tasted like crap. But when is it that you really started to feel that your vision was actually coming to reality? And how much do you think your military training had to do with that? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Sorry.
I want to give you a shout out for calling me the MMA guy. I've been taking JT to school a little bit. I know he's a black belt. I may be a white belt. Well, I don't know.
Carrying all that weight.
Just getting a little tired of not getting recognized for it. So Big Al, I do appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Hey, not a problem, boss.
But to answer your question, I think that entrepreneur, I think that part of the reason, I don't know how you guys felt, but when I was in the military, it was like after your tour, you're like, wait a minute. For me, I started it when I started seeing all these Blackwater guys overseas, and they were doing the same job as I was, and I'm like,
well,
how much are you making right now? I remember seeing this dude. He was wearing a Yankees hat, and he was going into this house, and we're all doing the same shit, and he's wearing a Yankees hat and like jeans, and I'm like, so who are you?
I want to wear jeans.
I want to wear jeans. Who the hell are you? They put all this shit on me, and you're wearing a Yankees hat. He's like, and he pretty much made fun of us and was like, yeah, I'll be out here in a month while you guys are still here, and I already made triple your salary. And I was like, oh, well, that's nice. And that was kind of like me thinking, wait, so there's a secondary market out there somewhere. And you get out and you start to realize that entrepreneurship is really solving a problem. And there's a lot of problems to solve out there. So for me, I was always into fitness and nutrition, and that was easy for me, and my story kind of it's evolved a bit. I think that I got into an industry that, I got an industry that wasn't like a sexy industry that everyone knows about as logistics, right? And our company was, there's 4 or 5 of us when I first started, and then fast forward, we sold 13 years later with about 270 employees. But when I was transitioning out of the military, it was, and you guys can attest to this, it's scary. It's scary shit, when your paycheck, whether you are like in the most dangerous place on earth or you're just sitting around your team room, just training, right? Like, or talking or bullshit. You get paid on the 1st and the 15th. You get paid, and your benefits, you don't worry about them. And then you get out, that shit all stops. It's just, that's it. And what the help we get is what, TAPS class? TAPS class.
So what year did you separate?
End of 2005.
Okay, so you've been out for a while.
Yeah, last world. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, so I did a short time. These guys, especially JT's old school. Did you just get out yesterday, JT?
Can't tell, man. I still got the scars. They're fresh.
So JT, speaking of that,
the paycheck thing though, that's money, right? Because the more dangerous a place is the more likely it's tax free for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hazard pay, right?
Hazard pay. Boom.
So JT, I guess we'll just transition, and I kind of ask you the same question, but kind of in a different way. One, how long did you actually serve? And once you got out, did you feel like that you were actually aptly prepared to transition? Because I'm assuming you were an officer.
No.
Okay.
I was E-man.
Okay.
But I was E5. I did 4 years. I did an enlistment. I held up 5 fingers because I can't count. 4 years. I did an enlistment, and I got out with the intention to continue serving after I went back to college. I went back to college in the college fund, and I got out with the intention to serve in the intelligence community, which I ultimately did, but I ended up doing it through as a contractor instead of as an employee, although I had the option to move into different employment opportunities. But yeah, so it was a super, super tough transition. I remember when I got out, like now the SEAL teams kind of have this currency, right? Like people have an expectation of what they're going to get from a SEAL. We have this now public track record of success. When I was a SEAL, like people, unless they read like the Rogue Warrior books from Richard Marcinko, or they watched the movie Navy SEALs, like no one knew what we were.
Now, what time period were you in?
I was in mid 90s to late 90s, got out in 99.
Okay.
And so when we
were in the same time period.
Yeah, man, that was the good old days, right? Dude, we were out just doing peacekeeping missions, having a great time, keg parties in the back of the compound, living the good life. Like,
we didn't have it was almost like, we knew we were going to have to like sign that check, right? Eventually, but everybody just kept making deposits, withdrawals.
Well, it used to be no. Remember, like when you're in like overseas, like for me, when I was in Iraq, there was no Facebook. There was nothing like that. Like,
no, existed.
When I called my parents, I was calling my parents on like a sat phone, and my mother never realized like how to use it. So, and it was like, according to our RCO, it was like $1,000 a second to talk on it. So you're like, hey, Mom, listen, this is going to bounce off the satellite. You have to wait to respond. And she go, my baby, what? And you're like, oh, damn it. And like, you never have the conversation. So you're like, I'm just going to write you a letter.
Yeah, that's right. Dude, that's exactly how it was. Social media just wasn't around. No. It's funny because decisions I made in my career, I may have made it differently if I could have peered out and seen like, oh, here's this frogman who did this and this. He got out after 15 years. Now he's doing this and he's an entrepreneur. It just didn't have that information coming in. And it wasn't the best, as you know, Big Al, that wasn't the best time. Like bases were being shut down. Families that had multiple people were on food stamps. Like it wasn't like a really compelling place to be, although the job was a lot of fun.
Yeah. During that time, we ran out of toilet paper as a whole.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was bad. That's what they told us to use corn husk. I mean, I'm talking like the entire installations out of toilet paper. They just money was gone.
What service were you in?
I was in the Army.
That's right, using the corn husk in the Army. Yep, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it was awesome. Uh, but yeah, so we all share that in common as well. So that's kind of awesome. Did anybody have a business background prior to jumping into this?
I didn't. My when I was a kid, my parents were broke, man. I shared a bed with my brother and my sister until I was like 8th grade, and I didn't know. I thought that was normal. And then I went to my buddy's house, and when I was in like 7th, 8th grade, and I realized, wait, you have a basement? What the hell is this? Like, what is all this? What is this crap? And we had all these massive houses, and I realized my parents were like killing themselves. So then throughout high school, I had to. My dad was he was an entrepreneur, and he didn't have success until he hit like, I don't know, 43 years old, 44 years old.
Now, what did your father do?
So my dad now, he owns a music production company called the Pabst Theater Group, and they produce music all over Milwaukee. So he owns like 7 venues, produces. I mean, they do over probably 75 million in sales, and just he was named like the most valuable person in the city of Milwaukee. So, but growing up, man, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was coming. So like, I was when I was in high school, every one of my paychecks and my brother's paychecks, it all went to the mortgage because everyone was thrown out of the house. So like, I was working at car washes. I was working at Radio Shack. JT, me, Radio Shack, bro. What do you think about that?
Dude, I mean, how long did it take you to get like logged into this podcast?
I didn't get that until later, man. Come on. So yeah, but I was doing that, and so that was kind of my early glimpse of entrepreneurship, because it was like, I think being an entrepreneur, your back is constantly against the wall, right? And you're constantly under pressure, which I think military definitely helps you with that. But yeah, I mean, that was my first early glimpse of that. Watch my dad go through the struggles, but he just hustled his face off, and then finally it clicked for him after I was already gone.
Man, what about you, Clint? I mean, what kind of drove you into now? Because Clint, for those people that don't know, Clint was actually a Navy guy, and then he became an Army officer. So, what drove you, Clint? I mean,
He was a sled dog at one point.
I was a sled dog. Yeah. So I pulled the sled with John for a little while, but yeah. So I did start out in the Navy in the SEAL teams. Kind of similar story to John. I did 4 years, except I got out because I wanted to challenge myself. I didn't get out like John because he couldn't hack it anymore. I just
self-selection, man. I made it easy on everybody. You didn't have to kick me out. I just self-selected.
Assessment is an ongoing process, and John just couldn't make it through anymore. But I got out. I really wanted to chase a college degree. My intent was to go back in the teams as an officer. I got approved for seaman to admiral. At the last minute, some recruiting changes came down. They said, hey, we're not letting anybody go to school right now. Don't worry, we'll take care of you, which everybody's heard that from the government once or twice. So I decided to exit and use the GI Bill to get a degree. The Army got their hooks in me when they said, hey, how would you like to fly helicopters? And that's always been a dream. So I signed up with them and went and learned how to fly helicopters, where I ended up with Al eventually over at the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, where I spent my entire career. So I got picked up there as a lieutenant and then retired as a lieutenant colonel, and spent my years managed by that unit to go do whatever they needed me to. But as far as going into industry, I had 2 great experiences. I went out, I got out and went into manufacturing, doing autonomous manufacturing, really great technical systems, state-of-the-art manufacturing systems for companies that were partnered with, big name vendors like Procter & Gamble and not Bath and Body Works. Yeah, Bath and Body Works. And so we made a bunch of products for them with machines that were 100% autonomous. You just put the raw materials in there, turned them on, set the parameters, and they would run, box the stuff, crate it up, put the labels on and everything. Well, that was really cool. A lot of the companies we worked for were really breaking into some of this technology, kind of following the Amazon model. And so they needed somebody to write training and integrate humans into this. And that kind of sounded like a lot of what I did in the Army. So that was a great experience. A little too much travel there drove me back home to a job where I went into cybersecurity for about a year and a half and changed industries again. But one theme kept sticking out to me. Like I was working really hard and showing success, but now I had the opportunity, if I wanted, to pivot off and do something of my own that I've always dreamed about. And that's where, I came in contact with some friends, Al and another guy that I served with that had a really great vision for how to bring veterans together in community where, we were free to do this. We were free to build a network and leverage each other, all that great hard work, and, ensure we're doing the right thing by, with, and through each other in our communities. So I couldn't resist. And so I left the cybersecurity industry with everything I knew and wrapping it around this platform to ensure that veterans' data and their legacy is preserved in a place where nobody can mess with us, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, especially the legacy. You're doing a lot of work there with the legacy stuff. But JP, uh, like what are some of the greatest lessons? What's some of the best advice you could give in terms of business do's and don'ts? Like what's one thing you would say, man, if I knew to do this, I could have saved this much time. Or if don't do this no matter what you do. I mean, so what you got?
Man, that's a really tough question.
Oh, it's coming to you two gentlemen also,
I,
just so you know.
I mean, I'll start throwing out some ideas because there's just so much. I mean, but
Oh, just give me like maybe the biggest two things and then the bottom two things.
well, I mean, I'm a firm believer that perfection is an enemy of progress, and it's more important to get off the mark and move smartly than it is to sit around and wait till you've like people kill themselves with data analysis, like analysis paralysis from analysis, right? And they don't do anything or they overthink something. And sometimes the best thing to do is to throw a few shots down range and see where your enemy is or see what happens, right? And people are scared to be bold. And I think that there's a few things actually as I'm talking there coming to mind. But like for me, like it's nothing's ever going to be perfect. So the best thing for you to do is to make a really smart, educated decision and move forward and test something and test and get feedback and iterate and be agile. Like in software development, everything moved to agile development from waterfall development for a reason. It's very much the same thing. Like I found my calling in consumer products businesses. It took me a long time to get there, but I love it. But I've seen it because these large companies will kill themselves with reams of data, tons of employees they don't need, tons of analysis they don't need, just to make sure that when they launch something, because they're going to launch something at a crazy scale, that it's going to work, right? And that's just not how the world works. You're better off moving, like shooting and moving, and that's a lesson from the military. It's something that applies, and especially in entrepreneurship, you get an idea out there, you get it as good as you can, and you put it out and you test it. You get feedback, you iterate, you get feedback. But the one thing that's also very, very true, and I'm just thinking about this from a business standpoint, is it's really important to be different. Like be yourself. Your company is itself, whatever that is, but be bold. Like you have to stand for something. You have to be something. Don't be scared to be something, even if half the people are going to hate you. I mean, you can look at countless companies. I mean, look at Black Rifle Coffee. It was very polarizing. Half the country hated them, and they were, a massive, one of the largest CPG IPOs in the last few years. Right? Half the country hates them, but they stood for something, whether you like them or not. They stood for something. So I think for me, like I waited too long in life because I was a little bit reticent to go out and try something on my own. And I wish I had done that way earlier so I could have way more at bats in life. Because you're going to lose a lot more than you win. That's just the way it is, and that's okay. That's okay. But your wins are going to be sweet. Your losses are going to fuel your victories as well. It's just going to fuel you to excel and to succeed. And that's the stuff you have to pour yourself into. So those are things that really matter. I mean, I would say for anybody, if you're going to start a business, you have to be bold, which means don't follow the trends. Do what you think is right and follow your own vision. so I think that's really, really important. And then as you're narrowing that in, you have to do it in a very agile way. Do like test, get feedback, test, get feedback, test, get feedback, test, get feedback. Once you know you're on target, then you start deploying rounds downrange, right? So that's kind of, those are some ideas that just come to mind in terms of like advice I'd give anybody that wants to be newer. Is
great ideas.
Move and be bold in your movement. Like those are two things. You have to move and you have to be bold in your movement. Don't be scared to fail. Get the feedback. Turn the feedback into success.
All right, I love
it. That's it. Four steps.
Coming to you, Alex. Coming in hot, because I'm going to ask you, as like you said, you were sitting there, and all of a sudden yours was just driven by you needed something better to eat. I mean, how scared were you to jump into that market? You know what I mean? And then when you got there, because that's something that's foreign to a lot of people. I mean, are you a chef? I mean, do you chef?
Absolutely not. No, to me, it was we sold our last company in 2018, and there's a quicker backstory that I can tell you about this, is that I had like a mission in my mind that like I have this crazy ADD, right? Where it's like, if I get something I'm passionate about, like I'll never stop. Like I'll die before Battle Bars ever fails. I'll die. I'll literally die. There's no way I would ever let it, or the gym that I own, I would never let these things fail. Never. And it's because I'm obsessed with it. And you have to be obsessed, and you can't fail if you don't quit, right? It's impossible to fail if you don't quit. So the way I kind of looked at it is like 2016, July 6, 2016, that's when Battle Bars was actually born. And that's what I like to tell people. It wasn't really born in July, like officially on paper, but to me, that's when my true entrepreneur spirit was born. So we sold our last company in 2018. 2016, July 6th, my good friend, my best friend, and guy I was in Iraq with, he was killed in the Dallas police shootings. There was 5 officers who were killed, and one of them was him. He was the first guy shot. He shot through the neck. And we were supposed to be that weekend. He was supposed to be making plans with me to come up to Chicago to go see the Cubs play the Rangers. He was a big fan, and him and I was trying to convince him to stop being a cop and come work with me in the business world. He just loved being a cop so much, man. And what ended up happening is after he got shot, like his family asked me to go do a fundraising online, because there were people making like fake accounts for online to raise money, which is pretty crazy to think, but not obviously very real world we live in. So I did it, and then I ended up going on Fox and Friends for like a 5-minute interview with it was like Tucker Carlson before he was like a big name and like anyone else. And I sat there, and in a 5-minute interview, I walked back out to my car, man. I was blacked out pretty much, and got into this car and sat down for a second, looked at my phone, looked at the GoFundMe page, and it raised $250,000 in like 15 minutes. It was crazy.
Oh, wow. That is awesome.
Dude, so I sat in my car and I cried my face off for a second. And I called his wife and fam, and I just told them what was going on. And she didn't know. She wasn't happy. She didn't know what to feel, And that was like my moment to be like, dude, I got to get into something that's a little more passionate. Like we were making so much money in our old company. It was filthy. It was so stupid. We were making so much money, but I didn't love it. I didn't love what I did. And I knew that I wanted to do something I was passionate about. So I took a year off after he sold. And I wanted to see what I was passionate about. So for me, passion for me was being able to tell my friend's story, being able to go and I want to see his kids be able to look into our bars and look and say, there's an insert that tells Pat Zamaripa's story. It talks about his family, and realize that their dad was a pretty freaking cool dude. And that when he died, he didn't die because nothing happened. He died and all this cool shit happened because of what he stood for and how much he meant to people. So for me, that was easy for me to find passion. So I was anytime that I feel like quitting, which is pretty much every day, and actually twice today, I was like, you know what?
I'm gonna take it easy on you.
No. You know what? I feel like quitting. I was like, I have my buddies. I have a picture of my buddy on our desk, and I always take a peek at it, and it's always reminded. It's he always used to make fun of me in Spanish and be like, "Oh yeah, whatever." I'm not gonna say it, but anyway, he used to make fun of me in Spanish, and And I was thinking about that, and then I'll like text his a lady real quick. We're real tight, and yeah, that just keeps you going. But you have to have that. You have to have something that drives your passion.
Yeah.
If you're just in it for the money, you're fucked, man. Like you can't be in it for the money because
that
you're not going to make any money right away.
Alex.
Right?
I went to this job interview, and I was excited because I'd been in this technology startup for like 7 years, and there's this guy, major technology entrepreneur in Atlanta, probably the most successful one in Atlanta historically. And he selected me as one of a few finalists for a candidate for a CEO job for a new company he was starting. And I was super excited. I went down, I interviewed with him. And I'd been kind of heads down. Like, I think we have this problem sometimes, military guys, where, like we'll kick a dead horse. We will literally keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, right? Because we just don't want to quit, or we just don't want to admit that an idea sucks, or something's not going to work out our way. Instead of pivoting, like we'll just literally. So I go in this interview, and this guy's like, we talked for hours. Like, it was an amazing interview. And he's holding up my resume. We've been talking, but he's like, he's like, what's a guy like you doing in a place like this? I didn't realize it, but I was totally like maligned with my passion. Like, I just was doing something because I thought it was what I was supposed to do, but it wasn't true north for me. And it wasn't until I had that job interview with that guy that it became really clear to me. I walked away from that, and I was like, well, first of all, it was a really successful job interview. I was like, I know I got this job. Definitely got it. He wants the tea sizzle in his house. Next day they're like, yeah, you didn't get the job. But then I emailed him, thanked him, very, very grateful for the time he spent with me. And I said, hey, could you be a mentor? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I loved our conversation. You weren't the right fit for this, but you have a big future. But it was that, like, I had this moment, like this epiphany, kind of like Alex did when after that interview in Fox. Like, I had this epiphany where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm putting all my time into something that I just don't care about. And to me, it's like watching paint dry. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
I have to get out there and like find true north for myself and start going that direction.
And he knew that. I mean, that's the reason why he didn't select you for the job, because if you don't fit, then it just, and you're one of those guys, he saw this, that, you're always going to be looking up, looking for something to do. You're not really looking to hang out with him.
See, you already got those insights, Al. I'm still learning this.
No, I'm just telling you, that's just what I picked up from your presence. But Clint, what about you? How did because I know you've had a lot going here recently, but how did you kind of figure out what direction you were going to go and kind of what you were going to hit your horse to?
Oh man, thank you for assuming that I had figured it out, right? But back to these guys and what they're doing. It's a constant pivot, right? You get, everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the face type situation, right? You just got to take failure on the chin and duck and move. But I will share, like, I agree with everything. It's easiest going last because I agree with what the great things they said. But for me, I'll give you a personal story. Finding my passion, I really believed in what we were doing at Fall In. Like, there is nobody out there championing the veterans' legacy. Go find it. Google John Timar's legacy at SEAL Team 8. You won't find it. Now, he did a lot of great things there. Same with you, Al. Same with you, Alex. But if you go to a veteran website, we're Googling and finding the information on where people are buried at Arlington, when there are people alive that have given their lives for this country, right? Like, that's their legacy. It's a living legacy. And for me, when that really hit home, like, the country should understand what these people are actively doing. This isn't a historical thing that happens. It's alive and well and in the veins of great Americans who are willing to stand up every single day and offer to put their names on the memorial if it came down to that. But when it really hit home for me, and I found my center, was when my dad died. And we had recently launched the Fall In platform. And he went on there and established a profile picture. And my brothers had gone in there and added some comments. Then when he died, we wrote a eulogy and posted it in Fall In and put it on his profile. Right. Well, this was all organic. It just happened as people were visiting his website. And then we got approached by a veteran organization who my father belonged to. And they said, we want to preserve our legacy in a digital environment where we can go in and search that and feel it and see it. And our grandkids can see it and then experience it in the future. I said, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. And they said, can you showcase that to us? I said, yes. So I got on, I was getting ready to do them a product demo. And I went to my dad's profile. And in there, my brothers had put the song that were played at their funeral. His eulogy was there. His military experience was there. I had taken pictures of his awards, all of his military experience, 3 awards for gallantry in Vietnam. 3 different awards for gallantry were given. I had stored those in there. I said, look at that. And they were like, wow, that's cool. How long did that take to build? I said, he put that in our platform 3 months before he died. He only put 1 picture in there and all the rest of it built by itself. Like, I went to other Vietnam virtual historical databases and Googled Ernest Wayne Underwood. You know what came up? 0. And so I'm like, how do his grandchildren and great grandchildren understand how magnificent this man was in combat, right? Like, they're going to find that and fall in just because he posted 1 picture.
Right.
And that, to me, it really resonated. And I was like, wow, man, we got to do this for all veterans. Like, this
it's the living legacy. I mean, it's kind of what's going on there, man. So you guys are all grappling. You got grapple signs there, and you're the white belt. I think we lost Clint.
Where'd Clint go?
Uh-oh. There he is.
There he is. Oh, look at that, man.
Look at that. Nootropics at its finest. You guys didn't even see that Easter egg.
Did he send that to you? Did he send that to you? Because I didn't get any.
No, man, you got to support the brand. You got to go and buy it, man. That stuff is great.
Okay. So we got a little echo going here. So what happened? Something happened different.
Try now.
Okay.
He switched to do that great reveal.
All right. So
that was sexy, by the way.
Food and fitness, right? Those 2 things kind of go hand in hand because you guys are both into that realm, and that's kind of what you peddle. So how have you kind of made an impact in your prospective industries? How you doing there?
Who you want to start with?
Yeah, whoever wants to jump on it.
Well, for us, no one's doing what we're doing. Like, we came out and there's literally a community that has over, like, when you add the larger combat athlete community, include jiu-jitsu, MMA, judo, wrestling. Wrestling, by the way, is the fastest growing high school sport in America, and it's the fastest growing sport with women in America as well. It's an amazing, interesting fact. MMA is the fastest growing sport in the world. When you look at 99% of the people that are doing this now, it's over 5 million people in the U.S. They're hobbyists. They're hobbyists, but there's this community gets together, and there's, like, for example, there's a big tournament in September every year called Masters Worlds, and there's a convention called Jiu-Jitsu Con. Jiu-Jitsu Con literally had 100,000 people sign up, and they had 40,000 people on the floor every day for multiple days. There were 10,000 competitors on the mat. What competition out there has 10,000 people coming in to compete? Maybe you have big, like, fun runs and 5Ks and marathons where you get thousands and thousands of people. You have video game tournaments maybe, but what other sporting event where it's just amateurs competing against each other do you have that, right? So that's Jiu-Jitsu Con is really interesting because it really gives you a really good lens and view cross-section into the sport. It was all gear and apparel companies. There's no nutrition. There's no nutrition support for the community at all. So I was looking at this personally and for me, the story, Alex had told a story about thinking about bars. Like, for me, I've been training for 17, 18 years. It's a lot of locker room talk, a lot of guys hanging out before or after class, and almost every discussion, almost every single day, somebody's talking about this new supplement they found, this new product they're consuming, or how they're stacking different things so they can stay on the mats longer. And I'm like, man, people talk about this every day, but no one's actually talking to them. And as I got to know nutraceutical companies and supplement companies, I found out that like the old school like mentality was no one focused on fighters because they didn't have any money. And I've had nutraceutical partners actually tell me that to my face, that they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year revenues. Like, yeah, it's changing now, but nobody actually focused on this community because there wasn't any money. And you look at the history of fighters and you can see that, right? Old school, like these guys are knuckle draggers, right? So, but I looked at it, I was like, man, there's a massive opportunity. No one's explaining to them what they need to improve their performance and longevity on the mats or in the gym. There's no actual authentic brands serving this community. People are buying like energy drinks and pre-workouts to try to be better, like jiu-jitsu athletes. That's a terrible idea. And all the other pro fighters, having served the pro fight team with Alex, like those pro fighters aren't drinking the drinks. They're not drinking energy drinks. I mean, they drink the low caffeine stuff, but they're not drinking Monsters. They're pouring water in those cans and drinking them on interviews, right? So like, so that's the reality behind the scenes. So I looked at this, I was like, man, but there's people talking about it every day. I need it personally, and I'm trying to figure out what I need. And there's a massive community that's completely underserved. So, so that's how I got into it with Grapple Science. I'm like, I'm gonna focus on this community. I'm gonna give them products. And we started out with a product that's meant to help with mental cognitive support. You know, having a background like Clint and the SEAL teams, like the mental part is the biggest part of the game, right? Like your mind wants to quit first because your body gets uncomfortable, right? So if I can help you with cognitive endurance, if I can help you with cognitive acuity, if I can help you with focus, you're going to get more out of your training sessions. If I can help you with mood, you're going to want to train and you're going to feel better when you're training. So that was the first. We have a platform that we built out for fatigue management, but we only launched one product so far, and the first product is the one for the mind. And again, something that's, you know, when we get people on it, like we've had NCAA wrestlers on it now, we have pro fighters on it, we have jiu-jitsu hobbyists, enthusiasts on it. They all come back to us and they're like, man, this is like my training was better because of your product. So I know I'm making a difference.
John,
so now
let me dovetail a comment into what John said. He's talking about fighters. He's talking about their cognitive performance. I take the product. I go to the gym, I'm a white belt, right? Like I don't think it's going to bring me the edge I need to be like a competitor on the mat, but I take it for productivity. So the nootropics in the product, what I see is that
I agree.
On the cognitive edge, I'm massively more productive. My connection between abstract and conceptual and just general productivity is a lot faster. My concentration is above normal. And, you know, getting older into my 40s and 50s, like, you know, it's hard to stay on top of your game without a little bit of help.
Right.
And that's what I've found from the product when I started. So, yeah, I take it when I go to the mat, but like if I'm at home and I need a really good hard day of pumping out results, like I go to Cognition. So I just want to
thank you.
Throw that out there.
I do I work out every day at 5 a.m. and I get up at 4. I take it I don't take it every day. I try to like cycle it, I guess, a bit. And I do it probably 3-4 days a week. But 4:30 in the morning I take it, and I hate pre-workout. I'm not a caffeine guy. I mean, I like caffeine, but I don't like that tingly feeling that's from like different bullshit like niacin and all this other stuff. Yeah, it's all bullshit. Yeah. But that stuff, man, it's so legit because to Clint's point is throughout the day, I'm locked in. I mean, I'm super focused.
And so you got ADD. Wait, that's not a HIPAA violation because you disclosed that first. I just want to put that out there.
I'm definitely an offended guy. No, I definitely have ADD and listen. I don't
see. I've got ADHD, so yeah, it's a whole different world for me.
It's HIPAA.
Yeah. No. So JT,
concentrate. I got you. Let's go.
Yeah. So JT, here's what's the newest product you guys got? I mean, what are you promoting down there? What's new? What do I need to go and get when I go and find it?
I love that you asked that question because I'm gonna give you a different kind of answer, right? So I have one product right now. I have a product called Cognition that we're talking about. we have other products that we've developed. We've not launched them. And the reason we haven't launched them, right, is because we've been down this road before. We're entrepreneurs, right? You get your legs up underneath you, you build your community, you test, you iterate, you test, you iterate, you lock it in, your messaging. And then once you have your critical momentum, then you throw your next product out, right? If you dilute yourself too fast in messaging, you confuse the consumer, right? So we're really focused right now on cognitive endurance, cognitive acuity. When we get over that hump, we're going to push out products. We have some really interesting products. I can tell you what we have developed. We have developed a really interesting hydration product. It's an entirely different thing from anything on the market. And that one is about getting blood flow to your muscles and keeping it in your muscles and keeping your muscles hydrated longer than you can with a typical hydration powder. Because all things being equal, like that's going to be your mental stamina and the level of hydration you have, if everything else is equal, is going to make the difference, and your work capacity over time. So that's what we're focused on. And then we have a product that's a really interesting, like, rapid recovery product. The type of product that helps specifically for fight sports, helps with your joints. It helps with your protein synthesis. It's different from a protein powder. It's more of a I wouldn't call it a multivitamin, but it's something that kind of helps, like, restore your chassis, especially for us old dudes after, like, getting our arms ripped out by guys 20 years younger than us, an hour a day. So,
all right. Awesome.
That's
so
what we just have the one product right now, and we're going to focus on that for a while.
I love it. I mean, I love it. And you can see that Clint's displaying that. Also, man, we'll also put the links to this in the comments.
Hey, let's turn over to Alex. Look, hey, I want to give a tip about cinnamon cereal.
Okay. So
I put a dash of cayenne pepper in my cinnamon cereal.
Ooh.
It gives it kind of that red hot flavor. It's still cinnamon, but it gives it a little bite to it. It's good. It's good.
So rolling right on over to Alex. Alex, over at Battle Bars, man. So it's your product. What do you guys have what do I need to do? What's the new greatest flavor, man? Where am I going when I go to Battle Bars? What do I need?
Yeah. So my favorite flavor, and JT, have you tried the blueberry yet?
The blueberry bar?
Yeah.
Dude, it is awesome.
It's going to win awards. It's going to win awards.
You see, my dog was eating it earlier this week. I put it up there for you. If I get a Battle Bar out now, like, you would think I got like a fresh who follows me all around the house. These things taste amazing. Best tasting bars I've ever had.
They're so good. They're just like a Rice Krispie treat wrapped in nostalgic flavors.
Yeah. Those things are
Yeah. So this thing is man, I'm so proud of this thing because we worked so freaking hard to make this happen. We've been through some shit to do it, and this is just like, it's a different level. But on top of that, we have a big. That's why this whole group is important. That we support one another. Like, JT helped me with a nice introduction to Folds of Honor, and we're making a Folds of Honor bar directly just for them. And
that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Cool. Yes, I just produced 25,000 bars this past week.
Is it a mystery flavor? Or are you going to tell us the flavor?
I'm not supposed to, but I'll tell you, fine gentlemen. Only because it's going to stay between us four, right?
He's not thinking anybody's going to watch the podcast. I don't know how I feel about that.
No, so it's cake batter. It's cookie cake batter.
What? No way.
Listen, man, this thing is. I tried it for the first time. I brought it out to Folds of Honor in Oklahoma. I was just there. I got back yesterday. It's incredible. It doesn't taste real. I'm like, this should be bad. But all the macros, we test everything. We send everything out for testing. It's 6 grams or 7 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein, 29 carbohydrates, like 5 or 6 grams of fat, but no fake sugars whatsoever, gluten-free. Man, this thing is incredible. But the more important thing is we're going to do some really cool stuff for people. We're going to help some people along the way and have regular donations toward them, and everything we're doing at the gym. We're doing some cool stuff with them. A percentage of all of our memberships are going to go towards scholarship funds for families. So, man, the bars are just that's really cool. So we have that Folds of Honor bar coming up. That should launch next week, and then after that we have we're in development on a plant-based bar. And I don't know if you guys have had pea protein before. It's freaking disgusting. It is so
Terrible. Terrible. I hate it.
It's so disgusting. But guess what? JT, your boy, do I call myself A-Dubs or Sizzle like you do? What do you do? What do you call yourself, JT?
T-Sizzle, man. What's up?
T-Sizzle? Yeah. So we did this thing. We made a plant-based bar taste like a battle bar, and it's freaking awesome. And we have a great partnership. And I'm like, so our idea was like, I'm not a plant-based guy. Like, right? Like, no one's gonna believe me if I try to sell a plant-based protein bar. They'll believe some of these other people that we're gonna put out there. I can't announce it officially yet, but you're gonna believe some of these lovely ladies who definitely look more plant-based than I do. So
yeah. Now you got a protein shake or something going on too?
Right behind you. That was Clint was just holding it up right there. Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
New flavors on that going out?
So 2 flavors, cinnamon cereal and s'mores, but the bars, and you can find them at every vitamin shop in the country. That's
Which flavors do you have in the vitamin shop?
Lemon, s'mores,
dude,
and then banana cream. They're banana
lemon
cream.
s'mores were my go-to until recently. I hit up Alex. I'm like, hey, for my next order on my subscription, because I'm a monthly subscriber, I'm like, dude, I want you guys to just like mix it up. Send me something I wouldn't order. Keep doing that, by the way. Because I go through 2 boxes a month, and it's just.
Well, they do. Hey, John, you can do a custom box. You can go on their website and like put what bars you want in there and a variety, and they hand pack it and send it with a little note.
I should actually do that, but I kind of like just a roulette of like, hey, Alex, what you got for me?
I love it, Alex. I'm gonna need to get on that. I want that personal treatment too. You know what I mean? I'll pay for it, but I just like that little special touch.
Absolutely.
So we can find all of this at your website, right? That's www.battlebars.com. That's BATTLEBARS.com. Battle Bars. Check it out. Like and subscribe.
They taste like you're eating a Rice Krispie. Like that's the amazing thing is for me. You know, you remember when we were going through Buds, Clint? Like the only thing out there was that what was that old protein bar called?
Power bars.
Power bars. Yeah, it tastes like you were eating the sole of your shoe.
Yeah, exactly, Al. It was just like the sole of a shoe, like a big piece of rubber. Like, and there's literally been no innovation for 20 years in this space. And even like one of the biggest protein bar exits in the last decade was one bar, and one bar just tastes like it's literally a power bar with a little extra sizzle to it. Like it's terrible.
Well, you want to hear some crazy stats? So I was talking with our manufacturer actually 2 nights ago about this. And we're with Folds, and we're talking about why we use real sugar versus fake sugar. So I challenge you guys to go to any grocery store. And what we do at the gym at 10-40-10, we do these big challenges called Patriot 40. It's like our version of like 75 hard, but like I always make fun of 75 hard because no one ever does 75 hard. Everyone always does like 45, like mildly hard. You know, they like kind of skip some days here and there. So ours is like a more sustainable version that we think you can get on a better path. So we do this, and part of it is we want you to look at everything on the label, look at all the sugar that's in everything. And if you can focus on taking 25 grams or less as a man of sugar a day, you can start to realize that includes everything. Like a banana has 15 grams of sugar in it, right? So we looked at this. I'm talking to our manufacturer, and I'm like, I want to keep the sugars a single-digit sugar in all of our bars. And we looked, and I'm like, well, what's the difference? So sucralose has 1/15 the cost of regular sugar.
I believe it.
1/15 the cost of regular sugar. And so if I want to put 5 grams of sugar, that's like what, that much, right? You put a little scoop in there. And sucralose, it's a chemical, obviously a chemical sweetener, but it's so sweet that you literally take a drop and you drop it into a big batch. That's how sweet this stuff is. And it has to be mixed constantly because it's concentrated, right? And just imagine what that does to your gut. Imagine what that's doing to your gut. So that's why.
Yeah, versus natural sugar. We know what that does, right?
So, I mean, like everyone that kind of complains about like sugars or, I mean, these are all people that sit on their keyboards and talk shit and are really silly and are not doing anything at the gym. They're not trying to take care of themselves. They just like to talk on the internet. So like we're trying to change that narrative and say like, when it says net 4 carbs on there, it's probably not good. If it says 0 sugar on it, I don't ever let my kids touch any of that crap. Never. 0 sugar. I'm like, I should make a freaking shirt that says 0 sugar and then cross that.
Well, you better copyright it.
When we were at Killcliff, we had switched, and this happened before me, but Killcliff originally had sucralose in the product. And then Killcliff really took off in the CrossFit community in the early days. And CrossFitters, I forget what it was. It wasn't Zone. There was like a diet that became real popular in the very early days of CrossFit. And that kind of led to a lot of the thought processes they have now around nutrition. And it's a really fickle community. Like if something starts happening, everyone jumps on that bandwagon, right? They'll take a brand that they support and they'll kill it. These people are they'll kill it. I think it happened to Ascent Protein. They're still around, but they were like huge and they got crushed on something. I think it was them. I could be wrong, but I think it was them. So Killcliff was starting to get heat as the number one drink, the first drink, the OG drink at CrossFit for having sucralose because it was kind of antithetical to the practices at the time of the community. So the guys operating Killcliff at the time put in a natural sugar alcohol sweetener. I did erythritol with stevia, and it got really close to the original taste, and that kind of worked out for everyone's macros and micros and all this stuff. And it was generally speaking a healthier drink than having sucralose in it. But it was a huge cost driver. The product became way more expensive. The unit cost of creating the product became way more expensive. But you're in this category where you're disciplined by the competitive environment. So like when we go to retail, we're more expensive direct price to the retailer than any other drink in the category. And they don't understand it. They get mad at you and because they want to do these huge markups on it, the same markup they do on like a Red Bull or a Monster. I'm like, wait a second, it costs us so much more money to create our product because it's healthy. And then because they put the markups on it, they price us out. Like they would price us out. It made it so hard to compete because we were trying to offer a better product. That was really challenging. I think it still is.
And that speaks to what we're doing here. Your products and our partners need to realize, like, I've got another friend named Sean Woodman. He's a retired guy out from the 160th. Spent years researching his nutrition products. It's Nitro Vitality, and he only uses the best products, right? And his price reflects it. But you're putting good stuff into your body, right? Like your brand has to be solid, and our customer base needs to realize that some of these other things you're putting into your body, they don't have your best intentions at heart. They're not worried about your performance, but the trust we have in our community, we need to start building that back and educating people like you guys are at 104010 Battle Bars and Grapple Science on what to do and not do. So yeah, I think this is. Thanks for sticking to your integrity as far as your product goes.
So JT, your website is
grapplescience.com.
All right, there it is, www.grapplescience.com, grapplescience.com. And grapple, that actually means something because the way I understand it is to grapple with something is to kind of wrestle with it, whether it be an idea or whether it be a task, right? You want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah. So grappling as a sport is taking off, but it's more comprehensive than, we're jiu-jitsu guys, right? But there's multiple flavors of jiu-jitsu. There's gi and no gi jiu-jitsu, and then there's wrestling, and there's judo, and then there's parts of the MMA combat experience that they're on the ground or they're stand up and you're wrestling. And typically grappling is associated with some form of a wrestling type sport. And that's where we really specialize. And that's what kind of fuels our passion.
All right. So we're going to get ready to wrap this up, guys. Anybody got anything else that they want to kind of showcase or just shout out, any shout outs whatsoever before we kind of get ready to get out of here?
No, I'll take that opportunity. I just want to say thanks to these two guys. Like they come from a history of success and they're turning that around and building their own companies. You can see that it's based on values and integrity. And that's why we asked them in here. We want them to be associated with us and the community we're trying to build. So we're just trying to push them out to like-minded folks so we can stay We can stay centric to what made this country great, right? Getting on the mat, doing the work, understanding failures, the path to success, all those things that you guys are doing out there. Like we here at Fall In appreciate also your mentorship, your inspiration, and what you're doing out there. I just wanted to say thanks.
Yeah, and guys, definitely from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for coming on the podcast today. Looking forward to actually, diving into your products, seeing what kind of just see how much it can actually make me a better me. And thank everybody else for tuning in. This has been the Fall In Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Big Al. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Check this broadcast out and many more. We'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Thank
Al.
you, guys.
Thanks,
Hey,
guys.
thank you.
And thank you, guys.